close your eyes for a moment and envision a world where fear morphs into hatred and hatred solidifies into law. Some stories cut deep, yet they illuminate the fragile core of human society. Tonight, we confront a harrowing question. Why did Adolf Hitler harbor such deep-seated hatred for the Jews? How did that animosity evolve from a personal fixation into a national doctrine, leading to one of history's darkest moral failures? To unravel this, we must go back in time before the camps, before the war, to the roots of disappointment, wounded pride, and social resentment that took root in a troubled mind and a troubled world. The Holocaust did not begin with murder. It began when hatred first began to sound reasonable. Long before he became a harbinger of destruction, Hitler was a young man with an ordinary dream. To be an artist, he sought recognition, purpose, and a place in the world. Believing Vienna could offer, but the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts turned him away, not once, but twice. Each rejection sank deep, leaving festering wounds of pride and humiliation. He wandered through the streets of Vienna, living in poverty, selling postcards, feeling like a ghost. And yet Vienna was not merely a city of beauty and culture. Beneath its surface lay nationalism, prejudice, social anxiety, and political bitterness. Hatred towards Jews emerged not as a taboo, but rather as a convenient scapegoat in a society rife with insecurity. People in pain yearn for explanations that make their suffering feel justified. Unable to accept his failures, Hitler found a community ready to blame minorities for societal decline. The Jewish community, prominent in commerce, art, and science, became an easy target for a society. Among the figures fueling this atmosphere was Karl Lueger, Vienna's openly anti-Semitic mayor. He demonstrated how resentment could be weaponized into political capital, how blame could be transformed. Hitler's time in Vienna did not turn him into a mass murderer, but it gifted him a language of grievance, teaching him that bitterness, when directed at the right target, could evolve into ideology. Great horrors often do not begin with grand gestures. They start in newspapers, speeches, and everyday conversations. Then history handed Hitler something far more dangerous than personal resentment: a wounded nation. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 offered him a sense of purpose he had long sought. He volunteered for the German army and served as a messenger on the Western Front, a role that provided him with structure, identity, and a reason to live for something greater. Yet the deepest scar did not arise from the battlefield. was inflicted by defeat. When Germany collapsed in 1918, Hitler could not fathom the loss as merely military, like many Germans. He perceived it as a profound. In this fragile moment, the stab-in-the-back myth emerged. A false narrative claiming Germany had not been defeated by external foes, but betrayed from within by Jews, communists, and other supposed traitors. Myths spread not by virtue of truth, but by appeasing. Germany, humiliated and desperate, craved a story that could make its anguish bearable. The Treaty of Versailles deepened that wound, stripping Germany of territory, imposing heavy reparations, and placing the blame for the war on its shoulders. This felt less like a settlement and more like a lasting humiliation. For Hitler, this was the moment when personal bitterness fused with national outrage. His resentment transformed from that of a failed artist seeking excuses to a part of a larger narrative of betrayal, decline. In his mind, Jews morphed from mere scapegoats into the central enemy in a toxic vision of history. This transformation made the danger all the more apparent. A resentful man had found a resentful nation. As private hatred began to resonate with national suffering, it ceased to sound like madness to those desperate enough to believe it. The 1920s in Germany was a time of chaos, with inflation obliterating savings and economic hardship. In this turmoil, people sought not patience or complexity. They desired certainty, rescue. This yearning opened a door for Hitler. In 1919, he joined the German Workers' Party, a small extremist group initially seen as insignificant. Yet it was not the movement's size that made him a threat. It was his capacity to resonate. His speeches became emotional spectacles. He could transform fear, anger, confusion, and resentment into fiery rage, providing audiences with a world in which every pain had a villain and every crisis a target. As he rose through the ranks, the German workers, Hitler understood that politics was not merely about rational argument. It thrived on symbols, uniforms, music, flags, rituals, and the emotional energy of the crowd. Nazi politics became a grand spectacle, offering. By 1925, Hitler published Mein Kampf, a manifesto outlining the worldview that would shape the Nazi state: authoritarianism, racial struggle, and a vehement hatred of Jews. This book marked the transformation of hatred from mere emotion into. Then came the Great Depression, obliterating jobs and collapsing businesses. Democracy appeared weak, and Hitler seized upon the crisis with chilling acumen, promising order, pride, and renewal. Yet built upon a foundation of obedience. By 1933, he ascended to chancellor. The Reichstag fire became his pretext to stifle dissent, curtail freedoms, and consolidate power. In 1934, he declared himself Führer, and with that, anti-Semitism shifted from rhetoric no longer confined to speeches or slogans. Cruelty now seeped into the very structure of government. Jews were expelled from public office and shut out of professions, denied their rightful place in society. Step by step, law by law, as injustice became normalized, the road to something darker grew frighteningly short. When the Nazis seized power, hatred was institutionalized. Propaganda depicted Jews not as fellow humans, but as threats, sources before physical destruction. Moral expulsion began. Jews were marked with the Star of David, evicted from homes, cut off from society, and forced into ghettos, where overcrowding and fear ruled their lives. This suffering was not incidental. With the invasion of Poland and the expansion of Nazi control, this process escalated towards the unspeakable, the so-called final solution. This chilling phrase cloaked unimaginable violence. By 1942, extermination camps like Auschwitz and Treblinka became centers for industrialized killing. These were not ordinary prisons. They were meticulously designed for mass murder. People arrived by train, selections made in mere moments, lives reduced to categories of death. At Auschwitz, the elderly, children, and many women were sent directly to the gas chambers, while others labored until they collapsed. This was not chaos. It was a calculated administration stripped of the Holocaust. Did not merely reveal hatred. It exposed the terrifying efficiency of a modern state devoid of ethics. Civilization, when severed from moral responsibility, can become a weapon. When Allied forces liberated the camps, they found survivors reduced to shadows, communities annihilated, and evidence of suffering that transcended language itself. Yet, even upon liberation, healing was not immediate. Many survivors returned to nothing. No home for countless Jews. The dream of home shifted toward Palestine. But this journey was fraught with its own challenges. As immigration restrictions loomed and tension filled the air, even so, some survivors moved toward a place where they hope to begin again. In 1948, with the creation of the State of Israel, part of that shattered world finds a new starting point, though not without pain and further complexity. The Holocaust destroyed far more than lives. It shattered language, culture, faith, and memory. entire Yiddish-speaking worlds lay in ruins. Writers such as Elie Wiesel, Primo Levi, and Viktor Frankl struggle to give words to the unspeakable. Their testimonies become part of humanity's moral archive, helping later generations grasp how such horror became possible. Great tragedies do not begin with their final form. They begin quietly, in language, in fear, in blame, and in the habit of seeing others as less human than ourselves. Remembering this story matters deeply, not only for the past, but also for the present. For those learning English through narratives like this, there is something meaningful here, too, every time you engage with a difficult story. Every moment you listen with patience, every effort to understand a painful chapter of human history, you are not merely learning words, you are widening your understanding of the world. My friends, here is a simple question. Does hatred in society begin more often with fear or with ignorance? Reflect on this as we navigate the complexities of human experience. As we share our thoughts, let us learn together, embracing calm and meaningful stories. The journey through history and language is one